The National Investor's motto is, you can get information anywhere, but here you get knowledge. And for well over 40 years now, Chris Temple has imparted that knowledge, an unparalleled, understandable, and useful take on the big picture of the markets and of our world. He has been out in front of what you see on the news every day on many themes. More, Chris has taken this macro knowledge and his unique analytical abilities to uncover unique investment opportunities. Often he has guided his members to big winners in resources, biotech stocks, and more. His talents and connections often getting him into ground floor opportunities before they are discovered. Without further ado, here is Chris with today's topic.
Welcome again, as always. I'm Chris Temple, and today I'm going to be joined once again, first time in several months actually, by my friend Victor Cantore. He is the CEO and president of Amex Exploration. As you see here on the screen, you will find them on the Toronto Venture Exchange under the symbol AMX. Here in the US on the OTCQX listing, it is AMXEF. And likewise here on the same slide, you'll see their website, their social media addresses, and so forth. I would encourage you, beyond this discussion today with Victor and our previous one, if you've seen that before on my YouTube channel, got a lot of action on that one. Spend some time at their website as well, get to know the story, which we're going to give you once again today, but particularly the most recent news of a resource estimate that Amex came out with, long-awaited one, back at the beginning of September, and what the near-term plans are to put more meat on those bones. It's a story that, frankly, the market didn't react to very well when the news came out, but we're going to explain why that is, and why I believe as well that the knee-jerk reaction that a lot of investors had in the end is going to be proven to have been wrong, and the weakness recently relative to its peers in the share price is a renewed opportunity for you to load up on what I think still is one of the premier exploration stories in all of North America. Now, before I bring Victor on, the usual preliminaries, of course, as you see here, he and or myself might be making some forward-looking statements. We want you to be aware of that. All the best laid plans sometimes don't go exactly the way you want, when you want them. And some of these things, we obviously can't guarantee. You've got to do your own due diligence and so forth on the story. I continue to cover Amex, of course, international investor. It's been a recommendation of mine now for a few years. I was kind of slow, frankly, on the uptake. Years ago, I love to tell this story. I was at a conference with Victor, and a couple of people had encouraged me to bone up on Amex a bit more because I liked the gold space. Back then, I was wanting to find some of the premier stories for the gold bull market, which has now been unfolding. Interestingly, it still has not carried most of the smaller and even some of the mid-size exploration companies with it. So I think that that's an opportunity still for investors, not just in Amex, but in a lot of companies. Others I cover, of course, international investor. And on that note, I want you to, if you've not already done so, be sure that you're on my email distribution list. Among other things, in the very near term, we'll have some updated written profiles on Amex, as well as some of my other recommended companies, a lot of sector information. And of course, a lot of that is going to be a moving target. Victor and I are visiting here on the 29th of October. Next week, we have an election here in the U.S., and God only knows right now what that's going to do to the gold price. In my most recent regular issue, I warned that one particular election outcome could see gold and maybe silver, which has been carried recently by gold, undergo a sharp correction, but I don't think it would last, because no matter what formula you put together for what the makeup of the White House is going to be and the Congress is going to be come January of 2025, nobody has a game plan to rein in out of control federal spending, inflation, etc. That, as I see it anyway. I'd love to be proven wrong. Maybe I will eventually. But as we see things today, I don't think that's going to be the case. So again, the long term, even if there's some near term bumps, the long term prognostications for gold, I think, are all bullish. And eventually, when they get tired of playing with the big tech stocks and others, and the reality, the greater reality, I think, still to come, of the great stagflation sets in, gold will finally again, with some of the better, smaller and mid-sized exploration companies like Amex, finally get their long overdue due, to put it that way. And I am joined now by my friend Victor Cantore, the president and CEO of Amex. Victor, good to see you again.
Great to see you again. Thanks for having me. I love, I always love having these interviews with you. It's great.
Well, it's good. We like to make it more of an interactive discussion rather than an interview and that kind of thing. And I need to give you an especially a gold star. I didn't realize it till you just told me that you're on the other side of the world right now, and it's the middle of the night. So I especially am thankful you took some time for us, Victor, to record this. We're doing this, by the way, folks. I already said it earlier, on October 29th, 2024. So a lot of things still ahead of us as far as the election and how the markets respond, including gold. But more important for present purposes, I want to give people a quick recap of Amex's story, which I alluded to before you came on. And we're going to spend some time talking about the news you put out recently about the first mineral resource estimate at Perron, why you did it, the way you did it. I'll share a couple anecdotes when we get to that point, and what we can look at going forward. First of all, as I said at the outset, you've got one of the best exploration stories, in my opinion, in North America. You're in a great zip code in the Eastern Canada area with Perron. Tell us about how that project first came together.
Yeah, so the management team that was there, well, some of them are still there. So Jacques Troutier, this is basically his third mine that he discovered. He optioned this from Falconbridge back in 1996. We got in. Well, then like Nico Eagle got involved in 2013, and then we came along in 2016. So we did get back to property in 2017, back from Agnico 100%. So we own it. Amex Exploration owns it 100%. We made the discovery of the high grade zone in late 2018, and ever since it's been history. Ever since we've drilled a little bit over 500,000 meters, and in the resource it was 430,000 of that went into it. So, and we've been there's still so much to explore on the property. So we're just gonna keep going.
Well, there is, and you and I have talked separately. And the last time, several months ago, we did one of these video discussions. You were talking about how last year's forest fires, among other things, were somewhat a blessing in disguise, as it turns out, because the province had to come in and log a lot of that area, get the half burned and dead trees out of there, and that opened up a whole lot more for you. So basically, you've got about a 45 square kilometer land package altogether, and you've explored a fraction of it so far.
That's that's correct. We basically explored for about 4.5 kilometers of it, and there's well over 20 kilometers of fault lines, which is where we've been finding most of the gold. And it's really high grade gold with great metallurgy. I mean, one of one of the things that really came out of and which will come out of our next study, it's going to be showing that we actually have a great metallurgy. Just out of the high grade zone, you're looking at 99% plus of metallurgy on that project. The rest of the project, and it's on our website. We do have it on our PowerPoint presentation. We're going to be probably using around 95% recovery. But I think the real recovery is going to come in even higher than that. We're looking around 97, 98%.
Well, and as you said that, Victor, I had a slide up here from your deck that talks about that, and that is one of the things that we're going to discuss here in just a second. Excuse me. As far as the economic study that's going to come out imminently. You've got all kinds of drilling that you've done. You said over 500,000 meters now total. 430 of that went into the resource estimate. You've got all kinds of blue sky on the property, more gold exploration, and substantial, I think, exploration potential for base metals.
Yes.
People, we'll talk about that toward the end. People need to remember, and I'll put this up here again as well, that you're pretty much next door to the old Normetal mine, and that was a very high grade base metal mine for years. So that's prevalent in the area as well as gold, isn't it?
That's correct. So we're next door to the Normetal mine. It's about 4 kilometers away from us. It was a high grade copper mine, where the copper numbers were well over 2%. They had about 10 million tons, around 2.2%, with zinc, lead, silver, and gold credits that came along with it. And what's really important there is to realize that the actual smelter, the Horn smelter, is about an hour and a half drive from our property. So you don't actually need. Although I believe that there's big deposits that are still waiting for us to be discovered there. You actually don't need a big deposit to be able to ship down ore, because all the infrastructure is there. And just to remind, um, you know, just to remind everybody, it's this project you can drive from Montreal, or from Toronto. You can go right to our core shack. From the core shack to the actual property, you're talking about 4 to 5 kilometers only. There's electricity. And it's not just these high tension wires. There's an electrical substation which supplies electricity to Hecla. It supplies electricity to the town, and it's 4 kilometers from the high grade zone, which is more or less the area where we're going to be. Where the mine plan is going to be. So it's pretty exciting having also, talking about, or being able to put in one day a base metals production, which is, with copper, with high copper values in there.
Yeah, well, we'll get back to that in a second, but I want to dive in now to the mineral resource estimate you came out with in early September. You and I spoke several months ago, because I know that, and some of people who have followed me as well as you know that you've wrestled for a while. How soon are you going to put out a resource estimate? You know what you've got. Companies like Eldorado think they know what you've got, and we'll get to them toward the end as well. But it's always I guess, a subjective decision. Do we put out a resource estimate now? Is that going to please the market? Is anybody going to care? But bottom line is, and you and I have had this conversation more than once, and I want us to have it again in some depth for people so they understand why you're doing what you're doing. Bottom line is, there's a lot of companies over time that have announced gaudy drill results, an inflated resource estimate. They go to start developing and then mining, and somebody falls on their face. I could mention several examples. I won't mention any. Some of them turn around later, some of them haven't to this day. But last month, September is two big conferences in the Western U.S. Of course, you've been there. I've been there. We know about them. The Precious Metals Conference in Beaver Creek, Colorado, and then the Denver Gold Show. And Tim Wood, a while back, who's the head of the Denver Gold Group, was talking about how even now, with gold hitting record prices, some finally Western investment interest coming back into the sector, there's still a lot of skepticism, and it's for exactly this reason that there's been disappointments in the past from companies that overpromise and whatnot. You told me emphatically that you're not going to come out with a resource estimate if it's not anything that you think is going to turn into a mine, where there's going to be any question about how legit it is or not. In fact, last September, you started bolstering your management team for exactly that purpose. I'll put that announcement back on the screen here, because bottom line is, especially today, when investors who are coming back into the gold space, they're not looking for the lifestyle companies. They're not looking for the stock selling for 5 cents with a lot of smoke and mirrors and promises. And boy, look at what our next door neighbor did, so you need to buy our stock. They want something that makes sense, is solid, and has economics, and can turn into a mine, because today's gold investors, the attitude is, show me the money. If not now, soon. Okay, so all that said, you came out with this resource estimate early September, 1.6 some odd million ounces between indicated and inferred, and the market didn't react well. The market was hoping for more, and and again, most investors right now, still, who are in the junior to mid-size exploration stocks, they want their ears tickled, and they like the sensationalism. So they didn't get the sensationalism. All right, well, let's go play someplace else. But you're setting yourself up for the more serious investors to come in, and partly because you're going immediately now to a PEA to demonstrate how these ounces that you talked about can convert into a very attractive and economical mine. So take us through those numbers after my rambling here. You'll do better than me. Take us through those numbers and what you're looking to do in a PEA and what you're looking to prove.
Yeah. So the main, and it's exactly that. It really comes down. It really comes down to that. When we reported the PA, so it's 1.65 million ounces, and look, it is a 43-101. There may still be some forward-looking statements that I make here. So I just want to, you can refer to everything that like everything I'll be talking about is definitely on our website. So I want to be able to to go through these numbers with you. So again, total 1.639 million ounces. The real highlight of this is the high grade zone. When you add up the measured, indicated, and inferred, you're looking at around 750,000 ounces at about 11 and a half, more or less in the 11 and a half to 12 grams per ton average. What's really interesting about this high grade deposit is that it comes down basically around 89 degrees. It's basically vertical. So again, I'm not a mining engineer. I can just tell you what the mining engineers have told us. It's a lot easier to mine something that's a vertical body, because you bring down a ramp, or it could be also a shaft. We're going to demonstrate it with a ramp, because as a deposit of this size right now, what we're going to be putting out with the PA is going to end up showing that you can build this. This will be a mine. You can build this the way it is. Again, I want to tell everybody, it's just for demonstration that you can actually go ahead and build this. We're continuing to explore. We want to try to make this as big as possible. If there's ounces there, we will definitely find those ounces. So what we're trying to demonstrate is that it's going to be a low capex mine. Unfortunately, I can't give you numbers, but what's is going to show is that it's going to be a low capex number. We're looking to have as high NPV as possible. At least for something to be really economic, it's going to be at least 2 times that number. You want a good IRR. You want what they call the AISC, the all-in sustaining cost. You want that as low as possible, and that's not by using to. We will do a sensitivity analysis with higher gold grades. But when you do these studies, you have to use a 3-year average. That 3-year average is somewhere inside the 1900 or 2000. I've been seeing some studies recently come out around the $2,000 an ounce in US terms. And really, I think that where this resource was misunderstood, that it's actually a mine. I know there's a lot of talk that you need 5 million ounces. And when you're talking about 5 million ounces minimum and more, you're talking about a multi-billion dollar, especially if it's lower grade. So you got to process a lot more material. You look at which today it's quite, it's very profitable. You look at Cote Lake, they went from $1 billion to $4 billion. And I'm not saying that it's actually a good thing today. But our project, when we put it out, when we put out numbers, it won't even be close to that. I'm talking about really on capex. But what we're going to demonstrate is that you can take this into production. It'll be a highly profitable, high grade mine. That's what we want to demonstrate. Again, all the forward-looking statements on that, please read that on our website. It won't be too long. We're talking about maybe another 15 or 18 days or so, and we'll have that number out. And that was one of the reasons why we wanted to put out the PA as fast as possible. Sometimes you'll see some resource come out, resource calculation, and you won't see an economic study till much later. We wanted to put out the economic study as fast as we could have. In order to put out an economic study, you need a resource, and that's why we weren't able to put it out all together at the same time.
Well, and your advantage, of course, as you alluded to earlier, Victor, is that you're in a great location. You've got all kinds of infrastructure. You've got all kinds of production capacity and whatnot there. So theoretically, and again, the numbers will be out sometime in the next few weeks or so. People can see for themselves that even though the numbers may be underwhelmed as far as the total resources, I think that people are going to have to take a serious second look at this when the PEA comes out and say, holy cow, there was a method to the madness with this. And not only can this 1.6 some odd million ounces be mined very nicely and very profitably if the numbers turn out, but there is still massive upside to add to these things. You know, it's not like this is the be all and end all. You're continuing to drill, you're going to continue to update your resources as you go along.
Absolutely. And we were blessed where this project where this project is based, basically, because it's that's where you'll be saving a lot on the capital expenditures. You have roads to the project, you have electricity, you have water, and most of all is you have manpower. You're in a city, you're in the town of Normantal, which was that's where there was the former mine. You're looking around 750 residents there. But as you keep going south, about 23 minutes south of us, there's the town of Lasar, which there is an airport, and you're looking around 10 to 12,000 residents, and that's where you'll be getting a lot of manpower. So you people can actually go back home. You don't need to build a camp. So
Right.
again, you don't need to build a camp. Electricity is there. You have manpower, water, electricity. And if I jump right into, one of the other things that you actually need is you need good metallurgy. Again, it's on our website. The high grade zone, just using a cyanide, well, just using gravity and cyanidation, you'll be getting recoveries of 99% plus. That means you can actually skip one of the steps. You don't have to do flotation. And that's the high grade zone. That's where a good part of the first few years of mining is going to be coming from. Now we had to do metallurgical work also on all the other zones that are inside that. And again, it's on our site. It's on the presentation. So that you'll need a gravity, flotation, and cyanidation. And when you look at those numbers, you're again well north of 96, 97% when you do all with all the other zones. And that's what makes this project special that you can actually, in my mind, that makes it really special where you can actually mine this. You have
Oh,
you have great infrastructure, great metallurgy, and the resource. When do we put it out? We put it out at the time where we felt that we can put out an economic study that shows that you can actually build it right there and then with that size. That's the reason. That's what we want to demonstrate with the PA. But I want to grow this we want to grow this as big as possible.
neat. And I'm got a lot of confidence that you're going to have some success doing that. Others that have confidence, Eric Sprott just came in on your most recent financing. Eldorado topped up. They're a 9.9% owner.
That's correct. So one of the things that we wanted to demonstrate to the market was that, look, we did this small financing, which I mean I call it small in the sense that our last two financings were here. Our last financing prior to this one was $26.65 million that we got that came in from Eldorado, and one of the reasons that we did this financing, led by Eric Sprott, and Eldorado maintained their 9.9%, is to show that they were satisfied with the project. I mean, these are gold, especially for Eldorado. When I look at the reason that they jumped ahead of the pack and came in and took 9.9%, I think what they're seeing here, they're probably looking at another Lamac. I'm not saying it is another Lamac. I'm just saying I believe that's what they're seeing. It's a high grade gold in a good jurisdiction, with good infrastructure. Who wouldn't want that?
Well, for sure. And again, stressing the point again from why you did what you did, why you came out with a mineral resource estimate as you did, something that you had some obviously confidence in that you could demonstrate could be a mine with low capex in fairly short order, is because bottom line is you can have all the fancy assays you want, you can have all the gaudy resource estimates you want, but how many of them turn into a mine and revenue and net profits? Still not a high percentage of them. And so you want to make sure that you're in a position to do that. Winding down, Victor, you've got, after this latest financing, still not a big slug of stock out there. I've seen a lot of companies with hundreds of millions or billion or two 2 billion shares. You got after this latest about 125 million shares.
That's correct. We're at 120 million shares right now. Actually, it's almost 121 million,
Okay.
and with there's 2.8 million warrants out there. So we're still on a fully diluted basis. We're still at 125 million shares out. Our last financials, there was $18 million still in the bank. We were using three to four drills from then. Um, Plus the financing that we did. So this was a hard dollar. This was a hard dollar financing. One of the other reasons that we also need to raise hard dollars. The last time we raised hard dollars was actually in December of 2019. And some of the studies now that I know we may consider that as exploration, but some of these studies that we need to do now, which includes the PA, uh, any environmental studies, you'll be using hard dollars for that. You can't use the charity flow or the flow through structure in order to pay for those. So basically, what I'm saying is that we want to continue moving forward. We want to continue checking the boxes. That here we go. We can start the permitting, and as we move forward with that, we'll be putting out the announcements for that. We really want to start showing that someone can move this project forward.
Neat. So you've got the PEA upcoming before year end, maybe before our Thanksgiving or about that time frame here in the US, which is late this year. It's last few days of the month.
Yes.
And then you're gonna be looking at putting that out and getting people to understand that. Well, of course, we'll be covering that as well when the time comes. One thing I want to wrap up with is that besides the blue sky that you still have to add to the gold resources incrementally as time goes on, as you add more drill holes and a lot of what you're doing there, and show that this thing certainly isn't going to stop project wide at 1.6 million ounces by any stretch. You've also got, as I alluded to earlier, some pretty tantalizing base metal possibilities there, because there are some systems in and around Perron, like Normetal next door and like some others in the area. You've hit a few areas yourself already where you had some pretty high base metal discoveries. So give us just a quick, I know that's not the top priority right now, the PEA is, but down the road, it's something that could add further to AMX's story. So give us a quick Cliff Notes version of that, Victor.
Absolutely. So the first thing we're going to demonstrate, well, as you see also, it's really the PA, well, the resource that we put out only had the gold. There was no gold equivalent. We've already done some drilling where we demonstrated that there is deposits of high grade. When you look at the Normetal mine, they had 10 million tons, around 2.2% copper, 5.4% zinc, half a gram of gold with about an ounce and a half or an ounce and a quarter of silver to go with it. So we didn't want to confuse anything. We wanted to show, here you go. We're going to show you can actually have a gold mine to go into production with what we have now. Knowing that there's a VMS deposit that was mined out just next door to us, about 4 kilometers away, there should be other ones out there. We've demonstrated, we've shown at least there's one, and we're going to continue exploring for that also. We just didn't want to confuse the story between gold and the base metals. Everything is different when you start working with sulfurs versus a project that doesn't have much sulfides. And just to remind everybody, the smelter where you would process this is only about an hour and a half south of us. So it's not a focus for us right now. We did put out results on that, and we will start to refocus also, going and build a resource of high grade copper. Look, again, if it's there, our geologists have shown that they can find these VMS deposits on our property. It is a belt that historically was a VMS belt, or a greenstone belt, and that's really what we're looking at. Again, it's not a priority. The priority was to demonstrate that we have a mine and we can put that into production. And the next thing we're gonna on top of, like you said, on top of continuing to expand it and growing it a lot bigger. On the gold side, we're definitely going to start exploring and making the high grade copper discovery to grow that also.
Well, that'll be a story down the road, we all hope. And for the time being, though, I think that folks have been given a gift with pullback in the share price in the recent past. You'd had a nice run before that. Market took it back. I think it's time to start getting that back again when people realize that you've got a very economic deposit here, and we'll start to learn more about that not many days hence. So, folks, once again, here's the information on the screen. Spend some time at Amex's website. Here it is. Follow them on social media. Sign up for their email list. There's an opportunity to do that right when you get on their website if you've not been there before. And keep up with this story. Again, going forward, and I said this earlier, the gold space still does not have a great deal of investor participation in it, meaning retail investors. It was only, and I talk about this separately in the near term, which you'll see if you are on my mailing list. We had gold going up all this year, and it was only since about mid-year or so that there were actually net inflows among North American investors into even the big gold ETFs. Forget about the exploration stocks, even the ETFs. There's still a lot of people that are AWOL from this thing. And I've said many times in the past that when the generalist investors really get turned on and jump into the gold space more so for a variety of reasons, it's like a 300-pound man jumping into a kiddie-sized wading pool. It'll be dramatic. You've already seen it on and off with other commodities that have been hot and then cool off. Lithium had a couple big runs. Now it's in the dumps. We've seen it with uranium. Gold still has yet to see that, despite the big move in the gold price itself. It's coming down the road. I'm thoroughly convinced of that. It may not go up in a straight line. It may not happen next week, but I think that companies like Amex that can show economics and show the money perspective down the road, not just be an exploration story of glitz and whatnot. I think those are the kind of stocks you want to have in your portfolio. So, Victor, thanks so much. Enjoy your time over on the other side of the world, and I'll look forward to when our paths cross again, not too far into the future.
Great. Looking forward to it. We will deliver something this quarter, hopefully sometime in November, and then we'll see each other soon.
Absolutely. All right. Take care. Thanks again.
Thank you.
For much more of the National Investor's cutting-edge content and actionable investment opportunities, make sure to subscribe to Chris's free content at nationalinvestor.com. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel too. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.